Okay, so today I have a very special guest, Rulashe. Would you like to introduce yourself? Any social medias to plug?
None whatsoever. But if you feel like being kind, go give the homeless some food today. That would be a nice gesture.
Love that. All right, so as you guys saw from the title, we're going to be talking about the movie Soul and more so the themes and takeaway messages that we got from it. Because to be honest,
Yeah.
we don't remember much. It was a good movie. It was long, but we watched
Funny
it.
because I don't think
Yeah.
we both watched it like 2 days ago, and it's just
Yeah.
wow.
Like, what's happening with our memories? I don't know.
I have no idea. I think it's Bill Gates, to be honest. They keep putting these chips in our phone, and I'm sure it's doing something to our memory. Okay, please. I just want to explicitly say I'm not being serious.
Yeah.
I do not think Bill Gates is responsible for me losing my memory. Okay, I'll make that explicitly clear.
All right. Okay, we're
I don't
in the
think
matrix.
the guy has that big an influence in my life.
Yeah, I don't know, but I feel you. I feel like there's something to like being online all day and taking in so much that you just forget what you've consumed like 2 days ago. So, yeah.
It's also funny because, I mean, that definitely is something that changed my learning habits. Like when I was in high school, so I went to high school in 2 different countries. And when I was still at my school in Swaziland, about halfway through there, the internet at the time really, it's only a few years ago, but really the internet wasn't as widespread as it is. It wasn't such a part of our daily lives. And this is
Year was that?
no less than it. I think this would have been 2013. So like, the internet was there, but it wasn't as prevalent in our daily lives, despite the fact that, we used it in abundance. But I remember the one time I was writing this essay and I just looked it up on the internet and, looked up some stuff about it. And, there were some common themes that I was getting, and I was, writing an essay, and I wrote this amazing essay. And at the end of it, I kind of stopped and I was like, now, wait a second. Does this count as cheating? Because pretty much all I would do is type something into Google, get an idea and then expand on that idea. But the initial spark of that idea came from the internet. And so, and this is really at a time, like, again, in Africa, you talk about being behind. But like in some ways, the internet really wasn't, the benefits of the internet weren't really seen in school and stuff. So I remember at the time I was sitting down and writing and thinking like, I should have gotten all of this from books. Like I should have read hard copy books to get this information. And then I remember sitting and being like, the only reason I think like that is because of what my old teachers and stuff have told me. And the only reason they think like that is because they didn't grow up in an era with the internet.
Exactly.
I noticed since that time that I really told myself that there's nothing wrong with using the internet for your learning and to, help. And again, I'm not talking about like flat out ripping stuff from the internet.
Right.
Just like, I need to do quick research that you can get. And since then, I've noticed there has kind of been this shift that you don't really need to remember too much because, hey, my phone is like 2 seconds away. Hey, Siri, tell me what and that's done, And I think it's pretty insane. Just speaking about memory, I think we live in an era where human beings don't have to be as smart as they were historically.
Right.
And, your memory doesn't have to be as good as it was historically because, like, if you don't remember something, it's not too hard to just look it up.
Literally.
And if you don't know something, again, it's not too hard to just look it up and look up exactly what you want to know.
Yeah.
So, I think the more it's funny, this is not where the conversation is.
It's okay, literally. We take it wherever.
I think the more time goes and the more the internet becomes a part of our daily lives, I really think our overall intelligence is gonna drop slightly, as well as our memory. Because as we become more and more dependent on Google will have the answer for me and this and this and this, really, why do I need to crap my brain remembering it? Now this brain is full
Yeah.
of all the stuff I want.
Hey,
I got no
meme
physics in
references?
here. I got no physics in here.
Nope.
No, no chemistry. I don't
Nothing.
know what an ion is. I don't know what electric charges are. None of that. That's all
Formulas?
on Google for
We
me.
don't know her.
All on Google.
Definitions?
You need it?
Don't need it.
Exactly.
All
I
I
love
have
it.
is meme references, Twitter handles. Like,
That's what I remember. Funny times,
oh my
videos. I can
gosh.
tell you all of that like this.
Yo. What's crazy, what you were saying, even like with personal memories, I found
Yeah.
like 10 years ago around is when like, people started getting smartphones and then having
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
photos uploaded digitally. So I find
Yeah.
now, even with Google Photos, like I may not
Yeah.
even remember something, but they'll be like, oh, 10 years ago today,
Yeah.
this is what happened.
Yeah.
Then I'll be like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Or even
Yeah.
5 years ago today. And it's just like you in high school with your friends at school and it's random, but, and
Yeah. No, it's really crazy like how the world has shifted because I don't think people really realize we are the pioneers of the internet. We're in that generation. Because
yeah.
you look, in terms of the age of the internet, it's like the 90s was when it was there, but no one really knew what this thing was for or what it does.
Mm.
It's just a thing that was there. And then which is like, that's why you have, I mean, Amazon started off as they were just trying to sell books. Like,
Oh,
you just
wow.
have people just doing whatever, it was really not good. And then as time goes on, um, suddenly you get marketplaces. What is the first one? I don't know if it was the first one, but like, you start to get stuff like PayPal on there.
Yeah.
MySpace starts showing up, and that's still early, early, early. And then I
Yeah.
think Facebook. That was just, and that like Facebook became available to the public. I think in 2008. So that's like, or
Oh,
2007. So that's like towards the end of the decade that
yeah.
like you really start to see the rise of social media and stuff. And then like if you really think about it, up until that point, the internet, again, like for me growing up, it wasn't like you could just go home and get on the internet. Like if you were
Mm.
on the internet, you were doing serious business.
Yeah, you're
Like
doing something.
yeah, this isn't a play
Yeah.
around thing. Like
Yeah.
and then in this past decade, the 2010s, that's when you start to see the internet being used, like really being thrown into our daily
Yeah.
lives. I think if people really try and think about what the internet's uses were at the beginning of the decade versus its uses now,
Yeah.
it's night and day. It's
It,
insane. It's amazing.
yeah, and I think like there's nothing wrong with technology. Like I know Black Mirror, we love that show.
Yeah.
It's really good, but I don't like to think so pessimistically. I think the key is to use all of this technology to your own advantage. Like if you need it, use it. If you don't need it, you don't need to use it because
Definitely
like
true.
there's this saying that like if a product is free, you're the product. and and like I think it's just like you have to pick and choose, okay, what works for me, what social media do I actually want, like what is not necessary for me, because like with me, Wi-Fi in a car isn't necessary. So if I were to get it, that's excessive, and it's like I'm now giving information to the dealership, like you said, or whoever else
Yeah, yeah,
is using that information for whatever, good or bad,
yeah,
or even just different social media sites. It's like if you're on there, you should have a reason for being there, not just because,
yeah,
oh, everyone's there, it's popular, whatever.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Well, no, but I think this is a good icebreaker question too, because everyone has different thoughts on social media. I think it's a kind of funny. One of our aunt's husbands always tells us, "Oh, you kids, you guys should be the ones setting up these Zoom hangouts. You guys should know about this technology, this," and it's like,
Yeah, yeah,
no,
yeah,
just because we're in that, like you said, we're the pioneers
yeah,
in that age group doesn't mean that we are like, yeah, every social media, let's do it.
yeah.
Like
And
every,
that's exactly it.
yeah,
Because if you think about it, I think we're from the last generation where it will be acceptable for certain people within our generation to not have social media. Like,
mm,
I think pretty soon, like right now, if someone my age says, I don't have or because typically people will have at least one. So if someone
yeah,
says, I don't have Snapchat, I don't have Instagram, I don't have Facebook or anything, it's not
yeah,
like, my goodness, she's so weird. Actually, it's almost like you can tell someone's age by whether or not they have Facebook.
Ooh,
Because I'd say
yeah.
people under 18 right now, to a lot of them, what is Facebook? Facebook is like a grandfather, it's the grandfather social media, you know?
Already. Oh my goodness.
Already, exactly. Like, and I forget, I was having a discussion with someone from work, and yeah, asked him about Facebook, and he's like, what on earth? Only old people are on Facebook. And I'm there like, oh my goodness, like already? Has my time come already?
How old
Like
is that person?
high school, he's like
Oh,
a senior this year, I think. So
okay.
yeah,
Wow.
like 18 years old.
Oh my goodness. That's so crazy. Yeah, something that I really loved to see on my timeline though were I guess the beginning animations for Soul. Like I know that they started circulating it maybe 5 years ago, 4 years ago, and like they were working on this movie and I was like, "Okay, okay, we're getting black animation. That's cool."
It took him 5 years for this?
Have you seen the thing, man? The graphics, like yeah, it takes
I
them
don't know.
a while.
See, to me, like I have to admit, I'm not like
Okay,
big into cinema and like TV and stuff.
fair.
So for me, like a lot of the times I'll watch stuff and the amazing things just fly over my head.
Well, okay,
Um,
but I guess if you compare Toy Story, because it's Pixar, right? Toy
yeah,
Story back in the 90s, they have Sid looking like a
that's
I don't
that's
know,
what
a
I was
movie
gonna
like
say.
this.
That's what I was gonna say. In my head, Toy
Oh,
Story and what's Soul? Toy Story and Soul. In my
yeah.
head, the graphics are the same. Like I also haven't watched Toy Story in a while. So,
Okay.
maybe if I went back. And also I think at the end of the day, cartoon is a cartoon is a cartoon. So
Literally.
sheer chance that I watched it.
How did you end up seeing it?
Well, I was just chilling at home as I do. And I think I went on Facebook, the granddaddy, went on
Yeah.
Facebook, and one of my friends, I think I saw like I scrolled past maybe 2 or 3 posts about Soul.
Yeah.
And then I went on the next day and saw another post about it. And I was like, you know what? Might as well watch this.
Mm.
So like I just pulled up the Disney Plus because we balling like that. And
Hey.
um yeah, so pulled that up and then watched it, and that was it. I didn't even know, like, I guess when I watched it, because I think I watched it on the 27th.
Okay,
So
yeah.
yeah, the 27th, and I think it had came out on the 25th.
25th,
So
yeah.
I didn't know that. Like I thought it had been out. Yeah. So it's funny that you say you saw the thing 5 years ago. For me, I had no knowledge of it coming at all, or
And
any knowledge that it was that new. Especially because yeah, the buzz and talk I was starting to see around it,
mhm.
I thought it would have been out for at least a few months by now. Like,
Right. No, we
I
it was
guess,
highly anticipated for sure. Yeah.
yeah,
And we're not gonna say any spoilers in here. Like we said, this is just a conversation after. But yeah, what was from what you remember or whatever, what was your take on it? How did you feel as you watched it? Like what were you thinking about? Because I watched it with my parents and we watched it on the 26th in the
yeah,
evening.
yeah,
And at first I was like, uh-oh. Because I didn't know anything. I didn't watch any trailers. All I saw was
yeah,
the hype on thing. I was like, okay, soul,
yeah,
there's music, whatever. Like, let's go watch it. And
yeah,
my dad loves the saxophone, so I was like, okay, jazz, it's gonna be cool. So we're
yeah.
watching, and then this isn't a spoiler, I'm sure, but the part where he dies and then ends up in some type of afterlife, I was like, where's this going?
Right? Oh, that's so funny. That's so Christians can relate.
Christians, SDAs can relate.
If you ask me my key takeaways from it, one of them is a bit of a spoiler, so I won't get into it, or I'll try and get into it without like really spoiling. But another one is, the concept of having a spark.
Mm,
And, what is your spark in life? Like all through the movie, you see like different souls getting different things as their spark. And
yeah,
it made me think like, what is my spark? And I think that's one of those questions that's such a hard question for a lot of people. I
yeah.
mean, for me, um, if you had asked me what my spark was 5 years ago, I'd have told you like this, no hesitation, in 2 seconds, 3 seconds. You ask me what my spark is now when I should have, more of a clear idea of what it is. And I couldn't tell you. Like it will be a 30-minute conversation
Yeah.
because what is my spark? What is the thing that drives me and keeps me wanting to go? You know,
So
I
your
don't know.
definition of a spark is something that like drives you and all that.
Yeah, yeah. The thing that makes you wake up every day. Like,
Mm,
you talk about like it's a bit of a cliche, but like, what is it that makes you want to get out of bed?
yeah.
You're waking up and getting out of bed because life is all about choices. Every day we're faced with choices. Everything is a choice. You wake up from there. Okay, you got two choices: lay in bed for an additional 30 minutes, or get up and get started with your day.
Yeah.
Nothing to do, you lay in bed. If you've got something to do, you're gonna want to get up and get started with your day.
Yeah.
From there, it's again your second choice. This thing that you have to do, what kind of effort are you gonna put into it? Are
Mm,
you gonna, just do it like it's something casual, or are you gonna give it everything? Forgive me some profanity here, but I remember a few years ago, I discovered, well, not discovered, but I came across this video, and they were speaking about this, about not half-assing anything.
yeah.
This girl says, whenever you do something, never, always give it your full arse.
Yeah.
Never give it off your arse. And I was
Hey.
like, that's like, it's a joke, it's facetious, but like, really, what is it that you want to do that like every time you're not gonna do it half-assed? You're gonna do it
Yeah.
all the way to the max. That's what I think your spark is.
Mm,
And I think me and you were also talking in terms of, say, career-wise. You
yeah.
know, you look at the people who are happiest with their lives. The people who love doing what they're doing. Um, they don't, like, to them. It's not a job.
Yeah.
When they do that. I mean, we spoke about that one Frank Ocean line where he says, "I'm on stage performing for these people. They pay millions to see me play, when in truth I should be paying them." And I
Yeah.
think that's what your spark is. Something where it's like you don't care about getting paid for it. You
Mm.
don't care about the money you make from it, and almost to a point that you would pay to do this thing. I think
I, yeah.
that's a bit how I would define your spark.
As I was looking, I'm just picturing in the movie like all of the little, I don't know if this is a spoiler, but just like I guess the spark thing was only one part of what made them a complete personality.
So
Yeah, so
yeah,
I'm even thinking like maybe we as humans we hype up purpose and we hype up a spark so much and we make it more significant than it might be. Maybe it's as simple as like I don't
that's
know, like
fair.
yeah, like because maybe one of the boxes was temperament. I guess that was one of them.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
yeah, so
yeah,
maybe having a spark is something like that, where it's like it doesn't have to define you. It's just part of who you are. And I guess
yeah. And
yeah, my interpretation of what a spark is just like you said, something that you enjoy, something that whenever you see it, it just lifts your mood up. And I guess
yes,
also
yeah,
something that you can do and hyper focus on, and it's just natural to dive into that.
mhm,
Because like for example, the character who his spark was music, when he was playing he would just be in the zone. And I
yeah,
feel like your spark is anything that you can tap into, what we as psychologists call flow. Anything that you can do and your mind is kind of like in a relaxed state but it's still
yeah,
hyper focused,
yeah,
and you perform at a high level. So it's not like you're zoned out and then you're like doing nonsense. It's like no, you're still performing at a high level but you don't require as much, um I guess, brain energy or thought to do the thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, definitely. Um, and just to go back to what you're saying, that perhaps your spark isn't what we traditionally perceive. I think there's a bit of this emphasis for people to be defined by something. You
Mm.
see people who are like, I'm a foodie. I love. Like, what is that? We all love food. What is a foodie? No, like, genuinely, I love food. I mean, perhaps I'm not the best example because like I actually do work in a restaurant and stuff, but like you'll find like who doesn't like food? I mean, and then you do have people with mental disorders, but then like
Yeah.
that's a disorder. Like, you know,
Yeah.
people like without disorders or anything like food. We all love food. Like, you know, I think people just have this desire to be labeled, you know, to be, oh, I'm a gymaholic. Like, I
Ah.
love, like, okay, like, why do you want to be defined so much by something you do rather than actually who you are, you know? Like,
Mm.
it's almost like people want to be labeled and placed in a box. You know, you talk about
Yeah.
how society puts you in boxes. I think society puts you in boxes, but at the same time, a lot of the times people just jump into those boxes themselves. You
Yeah.
know, you see it with like, you know, when I'd be in high school trying to help some of my friends with math, for example. You know, when I was in high school, math came easy to me, so I couldn't understand when people didn't do well. Like, you know, so
Yeah.
I'd be trying to help my friends, and you know, you see them giving up. No, it's okay. I'm not good at it. I'm not good at it. I just do this. No, no, no. And it's like, man, you won't get good at it because you've already defeated yourself mentally.
Mm. Yeah.
Like you already told yourself that I'm not a math guy. I'm a this guy. You know,
Yeah.
just by that, you've already placed yourself in this box that really you shouldn't be in. You
Mm.
shouldn't be restricting yourself to this. But I feel people just want to do that so
Yeah.
frequently. You even find it with when people start hanging out with friends who have negative influences on them. You know, a lot of the time they know that what I'm doing is wrong and I shouldn't be here, but they persist with it because, hey, this is the part of society that's going to accept me and blah, blah, blah. And I think it's just,
Mm.
I think that's where, you know, that's where having your spark comes into play and knowing what it is um, that gets you going so that you can always pull back to it. Like for me, I
Right.
say, like, if you had asked me 5 years ago, I
Yeah.
could tell you thing, and
What would
now
you have said?
I think what I would have said is people. You know, um,
Okay.
I'm a people person. I believe in people fundamentally. At
Wow.
the end of the day, you know, like no matter it's like you get. I mean, these days, people tend to be so cynical and oh, I hate humans. Da, da, da. I believe in. I mean,
Amen. Yeah.
I think you know it's incredible the things we've achieved. Some of the things we've achieved haven't been so good, but like for the most part, I believe that you know humans and God can shape. Well, I don't know. I'm kind of jumping down a rabbit hole here.
It's
Um,
okay. Honestly, yeah, you're
but
free.
but for me, I would have said I definitely would have said I'm inspired by people, and I talk about how like if you asked me that 5 years ago, I could say that, and you know nowadays I couldn't tell you, but I think that's funny because what now that I'm really thinking about it, whenever I'm at really low points and like you know just something doesn't feel right, the thing that always seems to pull me back up is when I do something for people. Like, you know, I just so like a few days ago, um I was at work and we had so much food that was going to get thrown out. I work downtown. There's a lot of homeless people downtown.
Yeah.
And you know, it was so much and usually you know, it's a restaurant so we do waste quite a lot of food. But this time it was just extraordinary. So I went to my boss and offered to buy it. Obviously, I'd have been buying it at way cheaper than what it was actually supposed to be.
Yeah.
But I offered to buy it so that I could go and give. I work a block away from homeless shelters. So, you know, it's nothing. It's literally nothing for me. It's even on my way home type of thing. So it's
Mm.
nothing to get this food that's already made and just give it to people. And I do that whenever I can, typically. But
Yeah.
this time was the time, like you know, I was able to get the most meals out of out of any time I've done it. And
Yeah.
like before that, like in the week before that, you know, I was kind of feeling low, kind of like you know what's going
Mm.
on, what's going on.
Yeah.
And I did that, and instantly, you know, I started to remember, like, yo, like Rula, this is who you are. This is what you
Yes.
like, you know. And so you talk about your spark. I think when you're going through it, that's the thing that kind of brings you back and gets you being like, yo, so what is it? So like for me, ultimately, what do I want to do with my life? Um, you know, we're from Zimbabwe and things aren't good there.
Yeah.
My end goal through all things has always been to try and improve the standard of living for people there. Um, and so when I help people less fortunate here in Canada, it
Mm.
kind of reminds me of what I really want to do. Because
Yeah.
for every time I give a meal to someone in Canada, I remember that, back home there's people there, and I feel bad because it's like, and I'm not there to give them that. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like, not it's not like I have some sort of God complex and I feel like,
Right.
I'm here saving people. It's nothing like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, even speaking about it, I don't like to speak about these things because it's like I see so many people who'll do charity and like post it all over your story.
Oh,
For me,
I hate those videos on YouTube that go viral of like giving a homeless man $100, and it's like that's so disrespectful and
yeah,
dehumanizing to just film.
yeah,
Because I bet
exactly.
they don't ask and say, "Oh, like,
Exactly.
is it okay if I film?" Like, come on.
Exactly. It's funny you say that because so the day I gave, I ended up not finding, like, this happened to be the one day there were no homeless people on the streets of
Oh
Saskatoon.
wow.
So I ended up just giving the food to the staff at the lighthouse,
Okay.
and they asked where it came from, or like if I wanted to include where it came from and everything, and I was just like, nope, like just anonymous donation. Some people get to eat because I think
Yeah.
when you genuinely have helping people,
Yeah.
it's got nothing to do with you. Like like
Yeah.
why should I help someone and then start posting about how I helped someone?
Yeah. And
I
it's
don't know.
so interesting. Like, this kind of ties into what I've been reading. I didn't intentionally do this. I only realized it this morning, but this past like week or I guess maybe not the whole week, but at least this week, the past few days, I've
Yeah,
been reading a lot about John the Baptist and
yeah,
Jesus and comparing
yeah,
their missions. So
yeah.
like I guess their mission would be their purpose or whatever. And we know like Jesus' mission was to help other people and show them, yo, this is what the kingdom of God looks like. It looks like healing. It looks like
Hmm.
your loved ones being brought back to life. It looks like, I don't know, being fed, being satisfied with what you need. And like
Hmm.
you said, like homeless people being helped,
Hmm.
all of these different things. And John the Baptist kind of was like getting people ready to be receptive to hearing that, because that was different. Like that wasn't what people were really doing. And I was also kind of reflecting on like us as like I guess regular humans who aren't Jesus, but
Yeah.
like what is our purpose? And I was kind of toying with the question of like, well, I saw John the Baptist's purpose was he even said it himself, was to meet the Lamb of God, to meet Jesus, and to point people to him so that people would know, like, yo, this guy is the guy who is gonna help us figure our lives out,
Yeah,
bring
yeah,
us closer to
yeah.
God, all of that. So what I took away from that was like, maybe my purpose, or I guess all of us on this planet, we have like maybe two missions in life. This is just my perspective, which is like to meet God for ourselves and genuinely have our own connection with God, and to introduce, or I guess show that love to someone else and
Hmm.
share God with someone else too, so they can also have a genuine connection. And if you think about it
Definitely,
like that, that can look like literally anything. That can,
definitely.
yeah. So there's so many different ways that that can look. Like it could be, maybe a preacher, it could be explicitly preaching or whatever, or it could be as simple as like even what you do. Not that it's simple, but it could be something like that, like feeding people who are hungry, meeting people's immediate needs,
Yeah, yeah.
or even
You know,
having conversations with your friends. Yeah, go ahead.
no, yeah, like something I really like. A few years ago, I like to learn about as many things as I can.
Yeah.
So, a few years ago, I was like educating myself on Rastafarianism and all of that because on
Yeah.
the surface level, for me, all I found is that it's Christianity. Just guys have dreadlocks and smoke pot. So that's
Yeah.
like what I thought. And then one of my teachers was married to a Rasta. So, I asked him about this, and like we had a meeting and everything. And, one of the concepts that really stood out to me is the concept of, I don't know, I'm sure you've heard it, but whenever Rastafarians speak, they always say I and I, you know?
Yes, I've heard that. I
Yeah.
listen
And
to
it's,
Jay-Z's lyrics. I and I with the higher ups, whatever. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it's like the reason they say that is because they believe that God is within everybody. And so, when you speak to someone, I forget quite how it goes. When you speak to someone, it's like you're saying myself, so like my soul,
Yeah.
and the God that's in me. So that's what I and I is.
Oh.
So, because of that, because, they're like, God is in me, and, God is, Rastafarians typically view everyone as the same,
Yeah.
other than those in Babylon. But, you know,
I'm dead.
it's like they have that mutual respect for everyone because they genuinely believe that when you're treating someone, God is within that person, and if God
Yeah.
is within you, then essentially you're within that person as well. So,
Oh.
it's like this circular motion of respect that comes from the fact that it's like by disrespecting this guy, I'm disrespecting
Mm.
myself. And I feel like that's how we need to view the world. Same thing in Africa, there's not quite the same, but the concept of Ubuntu, which is,
Yeah.
or which, yeah, directly for me, when I was explaining that concept, it's one hand washes the other,
Mm.
or two hands. For my right hand to get clean, it doesn't happen without my left hand working with it.
Yeah.
That's the only way my right hand gets clean.
Yeah.
And I think, if you look at yourself as the right hand and the rest of the world as the left hand, your responsibility to them, to the rest of the world, is to be that complementary hand that's there to clean it. And
Mm.
simultaneously, while you're cleaning that hand, it's washing the other hand. So um, I think humans just really need to realize that there's a lot that we can do for each other, that we should do for
Yeah.
each other.
I love that. Wow. So, do you think a spark and a purpose are the same thing? Because in the movie, one of the Jerrys said that they're two different things. Like that, I don't want to spoil.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think in some ways, I think they're related, but I think they are definitely separate things.
Okay.
Because,
How
like,
so? Yeah. Go
exactly,
ahead.
for me, my spark is people.
Yeah.
That's what gets me going. People. Um, my purpose, like what I feel I was put here to do, I think it relates a lot to people, and bettering people, but then, now it gets a lot more focused in that for me, like it's people from a very specific region,
Yes.
um, at a very specific time, going through a very specific set of circumstances.
Yeah.
Uh, but then, I feel like that's my purpose. So like that's what I want to pursue. But
Mm.
then it's not like independent of any of those. It's not like my spark is going to shine any less brightly because um, the thing that keeps my spark going is just people in general. Like,
Yeah.
so I think they are related, but not quite the same thing.
Fair. I always found it overwhelming when I was younger when people would ask what you want to be when you grow up. Like, this is when I was,
What would you say?
this is the thing. From age like 2 to age 10, the questions stressed me out. So it would be
Yeah,
something different every time. They'd be like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Do you want to be a
yeah.
doctor like your dad? And I was
I was
like,
gonna say,
no.
being the kid of a doctor, it's like everyone I know whose parents are doctors, it
Yeah.
is pressure.
Yeah. And I guess the reason the question really stressed me out wasn't because of my parents. My parents never put any type of pressure. They said, well, other than like for, piano, like we had to do piano.
Yeah,
Yeah, we had to do
yeah.
at least one instrument, at least one sport. But yeah, other than that, like, so I had so many different interests and I wasn't particularly great at anything, but I
Mhm.
still was good at, like, I did my best in everything. So I played soccer. I liked dance, even though I never did dance. I was in gymnastics. I was in skating. Like, I tried out so many different things. I could draw and I could storytell. So I came up with writing and acting and all these things. So it felt overwhelming, like to just pick one thing. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, this whole concept of a spark to me, I guess, is like a bit triggering, like a bit overwhelming, like to just pick one thing. So I really, I guess I don't want to spoil the movie, but whatever. I resonate with the part where 22 was like, yo, I like this about the world, and I like that, and I like that. And I think it's okay to
Sorry.
have more than one spark.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
sorry. Now that you brought that up, earlier when I was talking about, I can think about two key takeaways from the movie, and one of them
Yeah.
is without the spoiler. That's the one. And that one I found so profound because in some ways that's kind of how I feel. That, you know, this person went for so long trying to find something specific
Mm.
that was their spark. And in the end, it turns out their spark was living. For me,
Yo.
spark was life itself, because you see the moment where she actually realizes is when that leaf falls down, something so sweet,
Yeah.
and then she starts to play back at stuff like eating pizza, smelling stuff. What's this in my nose, and that's really how I feel. That's, for me, that's where I get my spark from. So like,
Yeah.
when I'm not interacting with people, interacting with the world, I feel useless. And so whenever I start to feel like that, I start to remember that, it's a drop in the ocean, but the ocean is nothing but a bunch of drops. So,
Wow.
just keep dropping, just keep dropping, just keep doing that. And yeah, no, I think there's so much to be inspired from in life. And
Another
yeah,
thing
for
I
sure.
wanted to touch on is, can you fulfill your purpose without knowing it? Okay, so this past year, um, I've just seen a lot and gone through a lot, and not in a negative way at all. I've seen a lot of positive growth in myself. And something that I've really recognized is that what's meant to happen will happen naturally. Like you literally, even if you were not aware of it, it's going to
Yeah,
happen. Although there are
sure.
times when, like, you do get insight on what is going to happen, or you have a hunch or whatever, you're like, okay, it seems like this is where this is heading. And
Mm-hmm.
then you can do what you can to try to like help it. Like I think of, for example, That's So Raven. She
Mm-hmm.
would see these things happen in her vision, and then she would try to
Try
make,
and
she
change
would
it.
either try to stop it or she would try to make it happen. And often, like, her efforts were almost irrelevant because the thing would happen anyway. Like she
Yeah,
couldn't change it either way.
yeah,
Even though sometimes, yeah, even though sometimes it
no,
wasn't what she expected. But I kind of feel like with our purpose, it's the same thing of like, it's, if you're aware of it, you can be intentional about it, but at the same time, even if you don't know, you might already be fulfilling it.
yeah, in many ways, I'm a firm believer of the fact that, it's kind of contradictory, but two things. One, um, if it's meant to be, it'll be, like, if like, I think life works out exactly the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I'm also of the thought that you create your own reality. You create the
Yeah.
life you want to live. So I think both of those, while they kind of sound off the jump, they sound like they contradict each other. I think that's definitely true. I think you
Mm,
create what you want out of life. And
yeah.
at the same time, if that's what's meant to be, it'll come to you naturally,
Yeah.
through your process of creating it for you. And you can pray to God and ask Him for $1 million, right? Whatever. But
Yeah.
like, if you pray and then just sit and say, I've prayed, it's in God's hands now, my $1 million is going to come. You're not going to get that, you
Yeah.
know? Versus, like, if you pray to God, you still actually have to go out and, like, do the work for God to answer your prayers, It's
And
not
I've
like it
noticed,
just ends. It's not like it just ends with that. You actually have to
yeah.
go out and, like, do the things. And, if this is what God has planned for you, He will bless you and help you flourish along the way. And before you know it, almost to a point that, rightly or wrongly, very wrongly actually, you start to question, like, would this have happened if I prayed?
Mm,
Because it happens so easy and naturally that you, like, like when I was sitting here stressing, praying, thinking this was never gonna happen.
Yeah.
It was always gonna happen, but like, you know, I don't think so. I don't think so.
I'm kind of mixed with that too, because I think there's nuance. Like I think the example of That's So Raven was from a certain, I guess, predestination type of mindset. And I don't believe in that necessarily. What I think, like, even with the $1 million example, is like what I've noticed God doing for me is I'll pray for something and God will say, okay, but first, why? Like, for your own, examine your own heart. Why do you want this? What are you going to do with it? If you're going to use it in a way that, like, doesn't just benefit yourself, but benefits everyone, or, it's for something, I don't know, good, then it's like, okay, cool, that's step one. And then it's
Yeah.
like, okay, now you have to also pray, like, help me manage what I already have. And it's like, okay, yeah, what are you doing with what you have? Can you handle more? And you kind of almost have to not prove yourself, but learn how to get to that point where when you do get that $1 million, like you get it and you maintain it and you use it how it needs to be used, um rather than you getting $1 million but like in increments of, I don't know, $100 because you're spending it and not using it as wisely as you could.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like sometimes it's a process of becoming that person who can handle what you want. And then,
So
yeah.
sorry, just something that you said really caught me, and I wanted to ask you. So you don't believe in predestination?
No, I believe
Hmm.
in free will, and I believe that, like, there's an ideal way that everything could happen, but it's our choice if we even want that for ourselves
So
or if we want something else.
so can I ask,
Go
have
ahead.
you ever say dreamt about something and then a year from now, like this thing happens?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, God can do anything in this universe and reality, and
Yeah,
we have a very limited view, especially as Christians. Like, I like that you said you also research other spiritualities, like just to hear what
yeah,
they think. And I
yeah,
think, like, there's truth in all of them. Like, God can speak to us through dreams. God can, speak to us through literally anything, through
yeah,
symbols, through literal meanings, whatever. And yeah, I think it's all legitimate. You just have to dig deeper, ask more questions about it.
yeah, for sure.
Oh man, this has been a great convo, Rula. Do you
Yeah,
have
thanks.
any last statements on Soul or on the movie or on life in general?
Kind of reminded me that, you know, the thing that inspires me, my spark, is the world. You know, wherever I go, no matter where it is, everywhere I go, I always try and interact with
Mm,
people, you know, and it's something that's definitely helped me, that like I feel I can easily fit in wherever I go.
yeah,
Just because I've kind of gained that ability to like scope the situation, scope out, okay, what kind of people am I dealing with? How do you deal with these kind of people? And
yeah.
then deal with them accordingly. So it was like what I really liked about the movie is that in many ways it helped me remember what my spark was.
Mm.
What
I,
about you?
for me, it's kind of like the idea of live every day as if it was your last. I find that it's a bit corny, but I think maybe how I would rephrase it is live every day like it could be your favorite day, like
Mhm.
find ways to make your existence beautiful and meaningful. And like,
Yeah, for real. For
yeah,
real. And
that is like connecting with other human beings or even just having a favorite part of your day. Like, I saw this journal
yeah,
um a while ago, a few months ago, that was like, what's your favorite part of your routine? And I was like, that's interesting, because lots of people go through a routine and we don't think about it at all. But I realized that my favorite part of my routine was being on the bus, on my way to campus back when we used to do that, and passing by like a specific neighborhood. Like every time I would see it, it was just so beautiful with the sunlight and
hmm
everything.
hmm
And I think having finding things in your life, in your existence, that you appreciate really makes it beautiful. Yeah.
no, for sure. I agree. Hey, well, thanks for having me, Zin. This was great.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Lashe.
Of course. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this, guys. And share it, of course. Thank you.
Love that. Love that.